So the topic of the second session is interface and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the moderator will be Dr. Farida Valiulina. She works with us here with UPF as the UPF liaison for the Vienna UN office. She has a lot of experience. She's just went a few weeks ago to Egypt, and she's traveling. She's very a bright lawyer, studied law, but today she will deal with our matter, with the importance of interface and the United Nations, and I hand over to her. Farida.
So a very warm and good evening to our honorable guests, excellencies, and also online participants. I would like to welcome you all to our second session of the conference, Why Religions and Cultures in Dialogue Matter for Achieving the United Nations SDGs. As it was mentioned, I'm Dr. Farida Valiulina, UPF representative here at the United Nations in Vienna, and I will be moderating the second session entitled Interfaith and the UN SDGs. Within the allocated time, we will try to explore the role of the faith-based organizations and the religious leaders for the Sustainable Development Agenda. We face major sustainability challenges in the 21st century. Fortunately, we have a unique opportunity to implement solutions at a global scale. In 2015, when the Millennium Development Goals have reached their target date, the United Nations adopted a new set of goals for new era, Sustainable Development Goals, which have a broader scope and actually focusing more on environmental sustainability, social inclusion, and economic development. And particularly, the faith-based organizations are very uniquely positioned to make a progress towards sustainable development. Nearly every religious, indigenous, and spiritual tradition teaches the moral obligation to protect the planet and also to live in harmony. As we know, FBOs, which is a faith-based organization, they control over 8% of the habitable land surface of Earth, about 5% of commercial forests, 10% of the world's financial institutions, and about 50% of the world schools. So which means it gives them a unique opportunity to combat global poverty, which the humankind is facing nowadays, also reverse environmental degradation and limit the climate change. And we are very much honored to have today such a distinguished panel with us to discuss all these issues in detail. So before we start, I would like to introduce you our panelists in the order of speech. First of all, we will have and we will listen to the presentation of Mrs. Tatjana Christelbauer from the Agency for Cultural Diplomacy, Austria, followed by His Excellency Mr. Aftab Ahmad Kokhe, Ambassador of Pakistan to Austria and Slovakia and permanent representative of Pakistan to the United Nations. Then we will hear from Professor Dr. Ida Gebeshuber from the Institute of Applied Physics, Technical University in Vienna. Also here with us today, Dr. Joshua Sinclair, who is an American writer, filmmaker, actor, director, and medical doctor, and also Dr. Rahela Kawi, who is the chairwoman of the World Hazara Council. Now we have our chairman here today as well. So please welcome our panelists with a warm applause. We will have quite an interactive discussion, so you'll be able to contribute also during our discussion session. And without further ado, I would like to give a word to Mrs. Tatjana Christelbauer, who is a Vienna-based international art and science practitioner. She works on interface of cognitive humanities, technologies, and diplomacy. In her works, which include dance choreographies, paintings, and installations, Mrs. Christelbauer examines the intersectional potential of art for the sustainability discourse. Our attention now will be focused on the intercultural diplomacy for sustainable development. And the dance meditation will be presented together with Mrs. Ursula Wagner-Taichi. So Mrs. Christelbauer, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Farida, for this kind announcement. Distinguished Excellencies, organizers, attendants, friends, colleagues, it is my great pleasure to attend today this meeting in some kind of multiple role. So it is sometimes difficult to connect art and talk at the same time. So I will keep it short and read my text to keep on time, because together with my colleague, Ms. Ursula Wagner, I have created a dance meditation adapted also for the space. And it is good to be here today, not only for the conference, to meet again and again, and to promise again and again, and to remember again and again the love, peace, whatever we feel is important. It is nice to be in this house of the Vienna United Nations during the stormy weather outside, especially with Feather, a messenger of peace. Won't be possible outside to perform and share with you. It will fly away. So what we all need will always be some safe place to deliver, to coin, to create message. And that safe place was always for me art. I call it art exile. So I experienced war. I came originally from former Yugoslavia. I was born in Croatia. And I lived in Austria for almost 30 years. And whatever I have done and studied was completed to be understandable and translated, responded in my artistic practice. In this regard, I mark I'm not reading. So I keep it short still. I could find a safe place and also time to co-create and to reimagine conditions, to deconstruct realities, to co-create possibilities, and to modify new articulations. This is what we are trying today to deliver. Presentation which I have prepared is accompanied, so there are slides with sound, accompanied with our breathing poses, which I took from modern dance language, which is my cradle of dance education. And then it's followed by some more dynamical dance meditation with orange feather. A decade ago, I attended this conference within the World Interfaith Harmony Week, and I'm very grateful to Dr. Peter Heider for his kind invitation to attend today and to contribute actively to engage in. So, since my last attempt, we are still and even more confronted with increasing acts of violence toward human world and nature. The calls for peace and peace building are growing louder. Art cannot solve the issues created at the political stages. But how can art engage in peace building, support ending and preventing violence? So, in such supreme conference, this multimedia project, which was started in 2021, inspired by the story from the Jewish Apocryphas and the Christian Deuteronomic book of Judith, the dance meditation for today should contribute, move, to engage in, inspire, and bring some sources for enlightening outcomes. The feathers in all cultures, religions, are crafted with attributes of peace and harmony. The orange feather is crafted additionally with a special message, because it was created, the initiative, in 2021, related to and created in support of the UN Women Initiative Orange the World, which is a call upon to action to end violence against women and girls and to unite against all forms of violence. In 2022, Orange Feather Initiative, which is art-based initiative through the media campaigns and artistic education, should support the Orange the World initiative, has been awarded by the Austrian Senat Wirtschaft, Austrian Economic Chamber, in 2022 with the Austrian SDG Award. Why I am telling this now? It is so good to know, it speaks for Austrian and for people in economic power, that with one feather resource, you can win award. We can get attention. We can matter. And this is what counts. The Tai Chi art, the Tai Chi sword in communication with my dance breathing poses is inner work, and it is all about awareness. Once used as a weapon, today sword is intended to serve for the ritual and spiritual importance and improvements. It symbolizes the ability to cut through the veil of illusions, ego, attachment, and to free the body, spirit, and mind, not to defeat our enemies, but to conquer ourselves, such as dance. Connecting dance arts with Tai Chi in a role of dance, in the form of dance meditation, enable a twofold attempt to dialogue, guided with the idea to reimagine conditions, to recreate the space for coexistence, while forming the sword with embodied words, crafted with breath, and articulated through the bodily movement. At some point, we are exploring the dialogue through dance meditation and Tai Chi art as a form of the spiritual practice, which connects the body and spirit within a higher dimension as a practice of faith. We leap. Feathers and sword. I would like to invite you to enjoy, but also to engage in. Here are some feathers. I brought them for your practices afterwards. And with this greet, I will leave the chair and move to the front, asking you kindly to start the presentation.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Christelbauer and Mrs. Wagner, for opening our session with such an enlightening and inspiring presentation, and for explaining how the cultural diplomacy could be really critical to fostering peace, stability, and developing harmony. Thank you so much once again. So it is my great pleasure now to give the floor to Mr. Peter Haider for a short statement.
I would like to welcome a special lady who came from East Tyrol to our conference, Mrs. Elisabeth Ziegler-Turek. I hope she is still here. Maybe she had to leave already. No, she had to leave, but she was here, and she was the winner of the World Interfaith Harmony Week prize last year, and she came today especially to this conference. Unfortunately, because she's from East Tyrol, she had to leave, looks like already again. But anyway, even we don't have her here anymore. It was quite something. She won this prize last year, and anyway, she asked me, I will send you more information about her work, because it's quite outstanding. Sorry to have this interruption.
Thank you so much. So now it is my pleasure to give a word to His Excellency Mr. Aftab Ahmad Khokhar, Ambassador of Pakistan to Austria and Slovakia, and permanent representative of Pakistan to the United Nations and other international organizations based in Austria. He is currently also a chair of G77 group here at the United Nations. He also served as an ambassador to Lebanon from 2015 to 2018 and consul general in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and also various other diplomatic assignments in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and Geneva. So the ambassador will shed light on the significance of interreligious cooperation for peace and development in South Asia. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam, and Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to all. It is indeed an honor for me to participate in this important event along with distinguished panelists. I would like particularly to thank Universal Peace Foundation, the Coalition of Faith-Based Organizations, the other co-organizers for hosting today's event to commemorate the Interfaith Harmony Week 2023. At the outset, I would like to reiterate the importance of religion and culture in achieving the UN Sustainable Goals. Religions and cultures can have and should play an important role for peace and development in South Asia and the world at large. Religion and culture shape our beliefs, values, and practices. They play a vital role in our societies. They provide us with a sense of meaning, purpose, community, and they give us a framework for understanding and engaging with the world around us. As we strive to achieve SDGs, it is essential that we recognize the role that religion and culture play in shaping the way that we think about and approach towards global challenges. We must understand that different religions and cultures may have different perspectives on these challenges. However, we must work to engage with each other with different perspectives in a meaningful and respectful way. Like the other parts of the world, religions and cultures have a profound impact on the people and societies of South Asia, and they can be powerful forces and tools for peace and development in the region. With a diverse array of religious and cultural traditions, South Asia is home to a rich tapestry of beliefs and practices that have the potential to promote understanding, cooperation, and peace between communities, societies, and countries. Interfaith dialogues and cultural exchanges can also play a key role in promoting peace and development in South Asia. By engaging with people from different religions, different backgrounds, from cultures, individuals can learn about one another's beliefs and practices, and they can develop a better understanding, a deeper understanding of the diverse perspectives and experiences of others. This can help to break down barriers that can lead to conflict and foster a sense of shared community and common purpose. One of the ways in which religions and cultures can contribute to peace and development is by promoting values such as empathy, tolerance, and mutual respect, which all religions teach us to follow. These values are at the heart of many religions and cultural traditions. They can help to build bridges between communities and believers. It is important to note that religion and culture have also been misused to justify violence and conflict. Extremist groups manipulate religious and cultural traditions to incite violence and to advance their political goals. It is therefore important to promote a nuanced and inclusive understanding of these concepts that respects diversity and human rights. This can be achieved through education and awareness-raising efforts that highlight the positive contributions of religion and cultures towards peace and development. Pakistan, being largely a country of Muslim population, is proud to be a pluralistic and inclusive society. It is the birthplace of civilizations and home to some of the holiest sites, particularly Sikhs, Buddhist, and Hindu communities. Our architecture is enriched by many historic and beautiful churches, temples, and gurdwaras spread across the entire country. They continue to attract pilgrims from home and abroad. One of the most significant steps taken by Pakistan, which showcases the direction of our progress to promote interfaith harmony, is the opening of Kartarpur corridor for the Sikh community from the neighborhood and across the world, and the construction of world's largest Gurdwara. The UN Secretary General has termed it as a corridor of hope. Protecting and preserving this religious heritage is amongst the priority areas of the government, which is dedicated and committed to promoting interfaith harmony. Pakistan has always been at the forefront of international initiatives, including in the UN, for promoting intercultural and interfaith harmony, combating intolerance, discrimination, and violence on the basis of religion or belief. Most recently, in 2022, Pakistan spearheaded the unanimous adoption of the UN General Assembly of a resolution to mark 15th March as the International Day to combat Islamophobia. Unfortunately, we have witnessed use of religious intolerance and hatred for political purposes and electioneering in one of the largest countries in South Asia. There have been growing tendency and events to attack Muslims and Christians and other believers. I would also take this opportunity to draw attention to the rise in tide of xenophobia and Islamophobia in many European countries, which is quite alarming for us in South Asia as well. The recent incidents of desecration of the Holy Quran in Europe have deeply hurt religious sentiments of more than 1 billion Muslims around the world, and South Asia is also affected. Such actions which disrupt peace and development cannot and should not be ignored or allowed under the pretext of freedom of expression. The right to freedom of expression is not absolute. It carries with it responsibilities under international humanitarian laws, such as the obligations not to disseminate racist ideas or defame or ridicule religious symbols or personalities. We need to understand the sentiments of others while exercising our right of freedom of expression. In conclusion, religions and cultures play a crucial role in shaping the societies of South Asia. They can be powerful forces for peace and development in the region. By promoting values, let me reiterate once again, tolerance, empathy, cooperation, collaboration, understanding, reaching out, awareness raising, and by engaging in interfaith dialogues and cultural exchanges, South Asians can work together to build a more peaceful and prosperous future for themselves and other parts of the world. Together we can achieve SDGs and create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world for all. I would conclude my remarks once again by thanking the organizers of this event and to Madam especially for chairing for this event. Thank you.
We thank you, Your Excellency, for your meaningful contribution and for reaffirming the importance of the interfaith cooperation for the peace and development in South Asia. Indeed, it is critical to continue encouraging the bridging, building the bridges of understanding and respect, and also cultivating the spirit of one family. Thank you so much once again for your contribution. We will now proceed with Professor Christina Gebeshuber, who is an Austrian physicist specializing in nanophysics and bionics. From 2009 until 2015, she was a professor at the Institute of Macroengineering and Nanoelectronics at the National University of Malaysia. Her book, Where the Machines Grow, How Solutions from the Jungle Will Change Our Lives, was shortlisted as Austrian Science Book of the Year 2017. And the same year, she was elected Austrian of the Year in the category Research. Professor Gebeshuber will share her thoughts on the importance of physics and related sciences in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Please, Professor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. We're going to start the slides, yes, so now you can see them soon. I can already see them, yes. So it's a pleasure to share my thoughts about living in harmony, living in balance with living nature, new ways of cohabitation with nature. I'm not just a physics professor at TU Wien, I'm also the president of the Catholic Academicians Association here in Vienna. Here you can see the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I would like to bring together in this first slide a little bit interfaith and the UN SDGs. First, interfaith initiatives bring people of different religious beliefs together to work towards a common goal, such as the SDGs. By fostering understanding, cooperation, and collaboration between diverse communities, interfaith efforts can help address social and environmental issues and contribute to the achievement of the SDGs. Religious organizations can promote and raise awareness about the SDGs among their communities, encouraging people to take action towards sustainability. Interfaith initiatives can bring together people from diverse backgrounds to collaborate on projects that address specific SDGs such as poverty, health, and education. Religious teachings and values can inspire individuals and communities to live sustainably and act as stewards of the environment. Interfaith dialogues can bridge divides and promote understanding, creating a more inclusive and harmonious society, which is key to achieving the SDGs. And finally, religious leaders can use their influence to advocate for policies and practices that support the SDGs, both locally and globally. So overall, interfaith collaboration has the amazing potential to bring together a diverse range of perspectives, resources, and networks to achieve the SDGs and to create a more sustainable future for all. And now I would like to bring physics a little bit into the game. So I like to build the bridge between physics, interfaith, and the UN SDGs. Well, what can physics do? By leveraging the knowledge and tools of physics, interfaith efforts can address some of the key challenges facing humanity and work towards a more sustainable future for all. Physics can contribute to interfaith efforts to achieve the SDGs in several ways. I just give you some examples. The first important area is energy. Physics has a crucial role in developing and improving clean and renewable energy technologies, which can help reduce gas emissions and address climate change, which is a key aspect of SDG number 13. Education. Physics can contribute to science and technology education, helping to achieve SDG 4 on quality education. Health. Physics plays a role in medical imaging, in radiation therapy, and in other areas of health technology, helping to advance SDG 3 on good health and well-being. Environment. Physics can provide tools for monitoring and understanding environmental changes, helping to implement sustainable practices and achieve SDG 14 on life below water and SDG 15 on life on land. So physics can foster interfaith collaboration by providing a common language, which is so important, and a shared understanding of the natural world, which can help bridge divides and promote understanding and respect between people of different beliefs. As Professor Paul Zuländer already mentioned in his address, mankind has separated from living nature. We are increasingly losing the balance. If you compare how a rainforest looks, as our chairwoman said, I lived for 7 years in Malaysia. There are many beautiful rainforests there, and much of the country looks like here on the left. And on the right is a typical city. And this separation from living nature has caused a lot of problems in the man-nature system. If you look in previous times, which is depicted by the circle on the left, we have a minimal distance by us, people living in the world, by our society, our industry and infrastructure, our agriculture, and finally, untouched nature. Unfortunately, this has drastically changed over the last years, over the last decades. There are 5 barriers, 5 main barriers which separate us, which separate society from living nature. There's the infrastructure barrier, the virtual barrier, the social barrier, the industrial barrier, and the agricultural barrier. And all these barriers bring with them a huge amount of problems which also result in these global challenges which we are facing at the moment. A very important aspect on the global challenges that Professor Paul Zuländer was already mentioning, and which I would like to stress again, is the interconnectedness of the Sustainability Development Goals. So it's impossible to address just 1 or 2 or 3 because they are interconnected and interdependent, and we really need to address all 17 of them if we want to provide a good, nice future for all. So I now propose some solutions for this problem. This doesn't work. Can you forward? So these are the barriers which are already mentioned, just to tell them again: the agricultural barrier, the industrial barrier, the social barrier, and the virtual barrier. And if we think about a solutions approach, we need to strive for more balance. If we look at population in the world population is at a maximum. Globalization improves the standard of living. However, more people than ever need resources, and the result of this is that the Earth is being exploited ruthlessly. Our sensitive ecosphere is severely burdened, and further growth can be expected. A collapse of the ecosystem might occur. But there is hope. Humanity is getting aware of the problems. Many recognize that men are part of nature, women are part of nature, and that Earth is not a supermarket with self-service. General added value theory applies. We cannot destroy nature for $1 million just to make $1,000 profit. Cohabitation with nature, solution steps. Step 1, realize the status quo. Human society is huge. We cannot just resize, but we can modify, and this is important. However, the human system is complex and it might fail. We already heard this several times before. This means that we need to carefully adjust this complex system. Evolution instead of revolution. But time is running out and nature is going exponentially. We see this, how the effects of our actions, are answered by living nature, and it's rising in an exponential way, the negative outcomes of the things that we are doing. However, we are learning from nature, and biomimetics, my field of research, where I learn from living nature for better technologies, for engineering, shows how nature produces, how nature can inspire more efficient and clean technologies. However, the investment demand is huge. And to succeed, I think the point of view must change. The biggest profit is not just a pile of money. The return of investment of a clean nature is huge. Second step towards cohabitation with nature is converting barriers into gateways. I found here two nice images. One is a bridge over a car road, and one which helps animals to walk over this road without being killed by the cars. And the second is a help for fish to rise up, to reproduce. So step 2, I suggest 5 different approaches: contact, contain, clean, connect, and communicate. Contact, I suggest to address the social barrier. People have to move closer to nature and learn that we are all part of nature. Contain, concerning the agricultural barrier, we must stop the expansion and grant wild nature ownership of remaining land and seas. I'm sure you have heard about this 50-50 goal or 70-30 goal, that 30% of the area on earth and land is provided to nature and wild animals. Clean, addressing the industrial barrier. Sustainable management of resources and clean production is a must and can be profitable. Connect, concerning the infrastructure barrier. Roads must also allow nature to connect habitats. It's not good if we have disconnected habitats, because the animals have a reduced genetic variety if they cannot come into contact, and then they are already, on the verge of extinction, although still some thousands of them are left because the genetic pool is too small. And communicate the virtual barrier. Nature should be an integral part of our virtual process and not be included by omission. And number 3, to change the mindset, I also put some images which I like a lot. One of them is a computer simulation, of course, how Manhattan used to look before the skyscrapers came and how it looks now. And then some new ways of living with nature, this beautiful house, I'm sure many of you know it, and one of the bridges in the Forest Research Institute of Malaysia, which used to be a tin mine. Imagine, some decades ago, this was a tin mine, and now it's a beautiful jungle, and you have the bridge over the jungle, and you can walk over there and watch the animals. So changes are difficult to accomplish, we all know this. Mindsets mainly change via education, so education is important, and nature must be in the curricula of the students, of the small pupils starting, and also in the universities. So 3 simple approaches. We are all part of nature, we are all responsible, and we cannot afford waste. And I come to the conclusions. I think mankind currently outgrows our ecosystems. The balance of the global system is disturbed. This is out of question. We must rethink and change the strategy. And to achieve a turnaround, I think we need to have the will and means to evolve our system. We need to overcome our boundaries towards nature. We need to change the way we are thinking by quality education. And I think this can be achieved. And then our children will face a much better, cleaner, and safer future. And I would like to stop with a quotation by Confucius, which I like a lot. If you think in terms of a year, plant a seed. If in terms of 10 years, plant trees. if in terms of 100 years, teach the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Gebeshuber, for stressing the importance of living in harmony with nature and also outlining that the science is likely our best bet to achieve the Sustainable Development Agenda and addressing those challenges that the humankind is facing nowadays. So thank you so much. We will now turn to Dr. Joshua Sinclair, who is a medical doctor specializing in tropical diseases. He has worked in India with Mother Teresa, as well as various parts of Africa. He is also a professor in comparative theology. In 2002, for his work as creator and writer of the Shaka Zulu, he received a commendation from US Senator Feinstein and US House of Representatives Republican Watson. Dr. Sinclair is currently teaches as a professor in filmmaking, comparative theology, and biblical anthropology at various universities, including Western University in Vienna. And Dr. Sinclair will share his experience on intercultural dialogue and interreligious encounters. So, Dr. Sinclair, you have the floor, please.
Thank you. I don't teach at Webster anymore because I think they got tired of me. But I don't have a horse in this race. That means that I'm privileged because I can just speak like one of you. I don't represent anything, governments or anything else. So I'll tell a story. I studied with the Jesuits along with another person who was an esteemed member of the United Nations, Staffan de Mistura. I wanted to be a Jesuit, but two things stood in the way. First of all, women, and second of all, the papacy. I couldn't give up women and I couldn't give up the papacy if I'm going to be a priest. But Francis has proven us all wrong because he's a Jesuit, so that's the end of that. So I decided to become like Albert Schweitzer, that is, study theology and medicine. I wanted to be Albert Schweitzer. That's how stupid I was as a young man. And when I first got to Pakistan and other areas, I realized that the beetles there and the bugs are the size of Chihuahuas and Yorkshire Terriers. That for me was too much. So this is a story about something that happened to me in Mumbai. I was with the Seva Nikitan, which was a dispensary in Mumbai. And we went into the slums of Dharavi, and we took care of the people there as best we could. One day when I was there with monsoon water up to my knees, an old wise man came. He was the wise man of this little area of Dharavi. And he beckoned me to come, and I followed him along with an interpreter who was a man whose legs had been lost to various diseases, including the Blackfoot and others, who used to go around with on a skateboard. And we went into the paths of Dharavi. Dharavi is 1 million people in an area the size of 2 square kilometers. And in this path, it's very special. This is not like Rodeo in Beverly Hills. This is not like Fifth Avenue in America. This is not like Via Fratina in Rome. This is Dharavi. And there is no way to get around the fact that this is the basis of humanity. If you ever want to know what humanity is like, you have to go there. And we reached a house, or a red carpet for that matter. I wanted to say that because that's the way I feel about it. The red carpets where people in my business go to collect a gold statue to define who they are as human beings. That's not true. Anyway, we reached a hut in this shanty town. I went inside the hut, following this wizened old man, and it was dark in there. My eyes had to get used to the darkness and to the stench. In there, on a cot, I saw distended a beautiful woman. And in the darkness, I saw eyes looking at me, hopefully, whatever. They were looking at me suspiciously, too. And the man said, look at her, with a translator, and I did. And he said, I said, yes, she is dead. And he said, can you resurrect her? Okay, we had convinced this part of Dharavi that they should be Christians. I don't know if they followed us because they really believed in it, or if they're, as often happens, they were very, very kind to us and polite. Sometimes people will become Christian just for the sake of being nice to you. You don't get into the dogma with them. They just either fall in love with Christ or they don't. This man said to me, "Can you resurrect her?" Now, I'm looking at a young woman who is dead. There's no way you get around that. Death is death. You can BS your way out of death a million different ways, but not when you are sitting there next to a beautiful woman and her family is there, and you are the representative of Christianity. So, I didn't know what to say. I could have talked about the fact that resurrection is only for a God, or the resurrection has to become only from people who are close to God, as Peter and Paul did, or even Paul's idea that without a resurrection, Christianity is dead. I could have said a lot of things. Mattered nothing to these people. They said, "Okay, resurrect her. You talk to us about your resurrection, resurrect her." I couldn't get into the dogmology, to the theology of resurrection with people who barely understood what I was talking about. They said, "Can you bring her back to life or not?" I could have also gone into Ramayana in Hinduism, which also has resurrection, other cases. All he wanted was for her to live again. He had called the bluff of Western civilization. And I didn't know what to do. Even with the Jesuit education, I was lost, which is very difficult because the Jesuits are never lost. And I looked at her, and I called him over, and I said, "Look into her eyes." And he did. And I said something which I don't know where it came from. I said, "Can you see where she is?" Now, I'm playing with samsara. No more samsara, which is reincarnation. We're past that because they've accepted Christianity. It's either resurrection or nothing. I'm playing with moksha, which is the liberation from the cycle of life. I just said, simply, "Can you see where she is?" We're dealing with people who only tell the truth. Maybe we're not used to that here. This is 100% honesty. You can't BS these people. Never. Because they see right through you. Their poverty, their hunger, their struggle through life is too great for them to ever take anything less than the truth. So he looked at her, and he said, "Acha." He could see where she was. And I said, "Do you really want me to have her come back from that?" Meaning in this poverty, in Dharavi, in this world as it is. Her face was as serene as any face I'd ever seen. And he actually thought about it. This was not a game. This is a real person who's dead. And finally he said, "No." I said, "Then let's leave her where she is." And I closed her eyes, and that was the end of it. We are confronted in the field, whether we want to be Albert Schweitzer or not, with truth. Truth is not about a specific religion, not about a specific way of thinking. Truth is something under it all, at the basis of life. Religion comes out of that, but at the basis of life, we are all alike. And in that basis of life, in that situation of life, we cannot run to theologies or to dogmas or to ways of thinking or to faith constructs. We have to be real. And if we can't find in ourselves something that goes further down than religion, comes before religion, goes back, let's say, almost to the Australopithecus. If we cannot find in ourselves the basis of a belief in something greater than ourselves that is based on real experience, we can talk until we're blue in the face about what religion we have. Christian, Buddhist, Islam, doesn't matter. Because they won't believe us. They never have. That was the heart of darkness of Joseph Conrad. That was what you read in all of the adventures like Mungo Park and the others who went to Africa. I saw that with the Zulus as well when I was doing Shaka Zulu. You have to believe, first of all, in the basis of humanity and build religion on top of that. I wrote something right after that experience, which was interesting for me a while ago. And it's this, I'll read it to you. "We are brothers and sisters on this brief journey through life. We Christians and Jews, Muslims and Hindu, Buddhists and Taoists and Jainists and Parsi and Shintoists and Tendai and Confucianists and those who find solace in Lao Tse or Zoroaster or the Cherokee spirit Shin Hiyu. But it's all very well to believe what we believe, but all we know for sure is that in the end we'll be judged not on who is right, but on how much we have loved one another. We always think we know best. And when I listen to some of these American evangelists, or even Catholics in the Vatican, who seem to believe that either you are one thing or you're not going to go, you're going to go to heaven, hell, all that, unless we understand that we are all dealing with something that is magic. It's magic. And when you don't feel that here, but when you go to India, when you go to Africa, when you go to South America, you see that what we believe in is supernatural and therefore magic. And people will go there because they're already there. In New York, nobody's talking about magic. In New York, nobody really cares about how deep you go and whether you believe in reincarnation. It becomes almost a game. But when you go to the beginning of civilization, you realize that we're dealing with magic. And unless we have that touch of humility that allows us to see that no one is right. No one. There's no right and wrong in this game. We're talking about life and death. No one is right. All we can do is hope that we can talk to each other in humility, understand each other in humility, and share our experiences of living, not of reading, not of instruction, but of living. What has life taught you? What do you see from life every day? Why do you believe what you believe? And don't give me dogma. Don't give me sayings and faith-based. Let's go below that. And I believe that if we go below that, we're all the same. And we can start to build again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sinclair, for sharing your personal experience, first of all, and for emphasizing the importance of the interreligious dialogue and suggesting also that humanistic elements can help enable the sustainable ways of thinking and feeling as well. So thank you so much. We will now continue with Dr. Rahela Kawer, who is the chairman of the World Hazara Council, which represents Hazara communities around the world. The World Hazara Council is a non-political organization with the aim of promoting the cultural, social, and civil rights of the Hazara people. The World Hazara Council was formally inaugurated in early 2013, and the first meeting took place here in Vienna. Dr. Kawer will address the current situation in Afghanistan and also focus on women's role in economic development and their potential contribution to the society. Dr. Kawer, you have the floor. Good
afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to attend here in this conference. It's a pleasure to attend here in this conference, and I would like to express my gratitude in having the opportunity to talk about Afghanistan, men, marginalized population, and minorities in Afghanistan. Obviously, freedom of religion is the fundamental of human rights as it is in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'm going to talk about my experiences and lessons I learned for the importance of religious freedom in sustainable peace and development. I originally belong to a country where has been continuous war and violence for the last 4 decades. I have been raised in the war and experienced the violences alive from the former Soviet Union invasion in 1978 to civil war and Taliban rule in 1990s, and then Taliban insurgency. During this period of time, the minority faith and marginalized population have been the primary target who were tortured, imprisoned, and killed because of their different faith and beliefs. Most of the faith minority groups, such as Jewish, Hindu, and Sikh, left Afghanistan because they faced torture and persecution for their faith affiliation. Where it has been a pro-communist party of rule or the Taliban, they fear from freedom and freedom of religion. I have raised in a Shia Muslim culture. When I was a 9-year-old girl, my understanding from my faith was we are in the faith of God. However, I couldn't express myself as a Shia because I might face harassment and discrimination. With time passing, I realized that each faith has its moral value, but it should be kept personal and it should not be tried to impose it on others. Instead, we should respect others, whether they are believers or non-believers. Each faith should be understood and respected to keep a peaceful track without any fear and persecution. Further, I'm belonging to Hazara ethnic. The Hazara in Afghanistan have a long history of a state-sponsored systematic operation against them based on their ethnicity and faith. On 25 September 1893, the semi-autonomous region of Hazaristan was invaded by Amir Abdurrahman, the king, with the decree of apostasy against Hazara. This decree of apostasy against Hazara resulted in the abolishment of 60% of Hazara's population on that time. Then, under the Taliban regime in the late 1990s, Hazaras faced at least 9 cases of massacres. In one instance, the Taliban massacred over 2,000 Hazaras in Mazar-e-Sharif, according to Human Rights Watch. Although other sources have recorded the number of victims in this single instance over 15,000. According to our recent data, the Hazaras in Afghanistan have been targeted 300 mass attacks since 2002 up to date. Currently, under the Taliban de facto authority, the freedom of belief is a taboo. Although female education and working opportunities for women, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly are banned for all people in Afghanistan. But for the Hazara, as an ethnic and faith minority group, is a special environment of fear, anxiety, persecution, torture, forced displacement, and killing. Afghanistan, where freedom is prohibited, there is no chance for equality, quality education, and development to be optimistic for the sustainability. Based on those facts of Afghanistan, since 1994, I have been an advocate of women's rights and human rights, working for education and health services and women economic empowerment. I started my activities to empower women and communities through education and providing healthcare services during the Civil War in 1990s, and I continued my activities until 2014. I realized that education is the essential step to develop the capabilities of each individual to have his own choice and fight for their rights and freedom. Currently, I'm chairing the World Hazara Council to amplify the voice of Hazaras, marginalized population, and religious minorities in Afghanistan for justice and freedom. We believe that sustainable peace and development need to recognize and execute freedom and equality. Finally, freedom of religion is the fundamental of human rights. However, it is not only a moral issue, it is also a security concern and responsibility. We need to call for action at the policy level for a safe, secure, and sustainable world. We also need more action to increase the public awareness about their rights and responsibilities and freedom of religion by conducting broader debate and conversation. We need to bridging the minority groups in a greater groups and talk about the issues, share the experiences, and also establish network to know each other and also understand the beauty of diversity and pluralism and freedom. However, Afghanistan needs a special attention on freedom and on freedom of religion and also sustainable development. This need is based on the different political and cultural setting. First, Afghanistan should have a legitimate and inclusive government based on check and balance, and the voice of marginalized population, religion minorities, women, and Hazara should be heard for justice and equality. Certainly, this is the voice for freedom and human dignity. Let's come together and start broader conversation to eliminate prejudice and fear and to foster freedom, faith, peace, and development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaver, for highlighting the challenges that Afghan women are facing nowadays and outlining also the way forward. Empowering women indeed is key to achieving the agenda for sustainable development. Thank you so much.